Welcome, everyone, to the Orange Branch Historical Society. Part of our mission is to turn the old Orange Branch corridor in West Orange into open space, but we also advocate for better light rail. Our guests today from Hudson County Complete Streets are leading the fight for better light rail in Essex and Hudson County. So, welcome, Jack and Dana. Before we get to the Better Light Rail campaign, I wanted to learn a little bit about both of you and your organization. Can you tell us a little bit about yourselves and how each of you came to transportation advocacy and how your organization got started?
After you, Dana.
I came to transportation advocacy mostly because I was frustrated about the lack of options and wanted to see more transportation, especially after moving over to New Jersey. I've lived in the New York City area for 8 years now and got really used to the subway. And then moving over to Jersey City, it was a little bit less available than I would have wanted, and the reliability wasn't there. So, got involved. Basically, a friend of a friend added me to the Hudson County Complete Streets Slack. That led to a WhatsApp for a local protected bike lane project in my neighborhood. And after going to several city council meetings, have gotten very involved with campaigns that HCCS is running, as well as I'm on the board of an organization in Jersey City called Safe Streets JC, where we advocate for pedestrian safety and multimodal transit. So really kind of through happenstance, just being passionate about transportation and wanting to see it, really grow and thrive. Jack, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. I am Jack McKee. I'm the campaigns manager for Hudson County Complete Streets. I first, I first became interested in transportation when I studied in Berlin in college, and it was a life-changing experience that you could go to a station with 50 euros and end up in a different country in an hour or so. The seed was planted, and then years later, in the early 2020s, I moved to Taiwan for a couple of years, where they also have a great transportation system. And I said the seed was germinated there. Anywhere you could want to go, you go to a station and say, "I want to go to City X," and there was an option for you. And the I saw the tourism, I saw the economic development, and I felt the comfort of being able to get around, go around without worrying about car insurance, gasoline. And then when I moved back to the United States in 2023, I stopped by Jersey City to scout it out, and I saw a bunch of improvements to the protected bike lanes, to pedestrian infrastructure. And as a New Jerseyan, originally from Monmouth County, I wanted to support the one city that's making an honest go of urbanism here, and not the only one, but it met all my needs. And then in early 2025, I was looking for a way to get involved. I started canvassing for the PATH campaign. And then within a few months, I found myself leading the PATH campaign and taken on as a part time staffer at Hudson County Complete Streets. So since then, I've just been, uh, many irons in the fire, and this is one of them. We're happy to advance it.
You recently celebrated a major victory in securing increased path service. Why is improving path service so important, and what impact do you think this could have on riders and the region?
Dana, you want
Yeah.
to start with the data?
Yeah, I can start with this one. So in Hudson County, about 35% of households don't have access to a car. And that percentage increases the closer that you get to public transportation. So for example, when you're in downtown Jersey City, a greater percentage of folks don't own a car on a regular basis. The further out you go, that does increase. But despite all of its issues and all of the path headaches that we've all had, I personally find it a lot easier to use and more reliable than taking the bus. And owning a car is incredibly expensive. I think with not even just rising gas prices, just owning insurance and maintenance and everything, it's really challenging for a lot of families in Hudson County, and even you know you also factor in the environmental impacts. It's really critical that we have reliable, consistent path service that's there when you need it. It's not just like an easier way to see friends, but it can be the difference in between someone taking a job, for example. And something that we always quote is that every dollar invested in public transportation creates $5 of economic impact. And you can really see that, especially around where there is transit in Jersey City and in Hudson County, tends to attract more development, more investment, and that's always helpful for growing the community. Jack, anything that you want to add?
add on to that increased tax revenue. Although I don't have ready access to it, one of our board members, Ryan Williams, has put together a lovely spread showing a vertical assessment of tax revenue. And it is, if there's a transit spot, there's a little mound. If there are intersecting lines of transit, there's a peak. And it's really undeniable. And just anecdotally, I remember speaking with a gentleman who did not know that I was running a PATH campaign. He goes, what's wrong, Matt? And he said, my wife and I are just, we don't want to, but we're really considering moving back to New York City because we just can't, we can't deal with the PATH as it is anymore. And I stopped. I said, can I record you saying that? And he said, you want to take a video of me complaining about PATH and how it might make me move? And I said, I would like nothing more. And that is the objective reality for a lot of people. And I just wish more electeds and the Port Authority, they have an idea. I'm not gonna say that they're not trying. They're really trying, but I don't think anyone understands how crucial it is to New Jersey. It's our aorta.
Can you walk us through how that campaign unfolded? Who were the key decision makers? Who were your allies? And what did it take to achieve a successful outcome?
So there was a gentleman named John Tarano who really got the ball rolling on that. He has since stepped back from advocacy to return to his professional life, but he put together some great decks that looked at the problem and put it in numerical terms, empirical data, and so that's the book work. And then he did the ABCs, always be canvassing. He organized people and got them on the street, at the stations rather, in Jersey City, in Newark, and Harrison. He really organized the community, and I got to give him a lot of credit for the success of the campaign. From there, once he demonstrated that this campaign had legs, he went out and collected letters of support. When we hit certain milestones of signatures, he invited everyone in the press to attend a rally at Exchange Place to get some media coverage. And then from there, you really just build on that momentum. You ask legislators to come attend board meetings. You give them, you don't put words in their mouth, but you give them the talking points so they can better understand how they help the campaign. Everyone has their own idea of what's best, but there is a need to guide legislators or electeds, to how their words can help this specific campaign. We did that, and then just a lot of persistence. Once you have made it clear that you have some organizing muscle to flex, I found it was best to step back, not be in their face, but to remain present, kind of always looming in the background and popping in for every board meeting. Say, I could always do that again. And it really did advance things along. And I'll just say, be nice. They're all people. They're all people. They're not the enemy. And I was on a New Jersey Transit call the other day, and there's a gentleman just screaming at them about how horrible they are, and it doesn't go over well. So I think a big dose of kindness helped.
What advice would you give to other advocates who want to work with organizations like NJ Transit or Port Authority?
I'll finish my last answer, then pass it to you for other perspective, Dana. It is understanding that they are also people at their job, and that your frustrations are likely their frustrations. We're all kind of captured by the system we inherit. No one, no one alive today created the Port Authority or New Jersey Transit. They inherited that with all its problems. And just like you can't, at our individual jobs, we can't publicly call out the person who's perhaps not so good at their job. They can't do that at the Port Authority and New Jersey Transit either. So there has to be there's a song and dance that gets you what you want. Don't turn the music off on them when they're just about to deliver, which a lot of advocates do. Don't spoil the broth.
I would agree with Jack there, and I think something else that's really important is just to keep being present and showing up. It's really challenging. A lot of these meetings are often during, hours when we're working. We've got other obligations going on, and it's about making an effort, and just being there and being present does actually make a big difference. And as Jack said, I think it goes really far when you can say like, hey, I'm passionate about it, and this is something that I really want to see. But also having that wherewithal to be like, how can we work within the constructs of what you can do today, maybe what we can set up for tomorrow, and just understand everyone has constraints in their individual jobs and in their individual day-to-days. I think it does go a long way.
I would add also ask how you can help. Don't come in there like don't say I want this. You're going to give it to me. Frame it differently. Like the community needs this. I know you're dealing with a lot. We appreciate it. How can I help facilitate this? Like let me know. And also another thing, take calls like this one. You will all know about our light rail campaign. So when people invite you to do things, do that. Don't be too busy. Make the time.
One issue that comes up a lot is the relationship between ridership and service frequency. Agencies sometimes argue that low ridership doesn't justify additional service, while advocates argue that better service is needed to attract more riders. This has been the case with Highland Avenue Station in Orange. How do you break that cycle?
I can take this one to kick things off. I think one thing that the campaign for PATH really showed was that there is a huge demand for better service. Port Authority really looks at their mandate and their agency as a business, and there's supply and there's demand, and they were really vastly, in my personal opinion, underestimating some of that demand. So having 6,000 people send them letters that they want better service on nights and weekends and all of this really showed them that yes, the demand is there, the demand is happening. We need them to come to the table and fill their end of the bargain by providing that supply. So we also went to board meetings, as Jack said, and we said, hey, I'm the person that you left stranded at 10:30 at night, and I took an Uber home instead of your system because of all of these reasons. And that really resonated, just showing the opportunity cost of what they were missing out on by not providing the service that folks were looking for.
Yeah, I mean, you basically nailed it. I mean, I just want to give one stat at the most recent PA board meeting. Executive Director Garcia noted that Sunday ridership had increased 20%. So, I mean, the proof is in the pudding with that one. And on average, I think it was 5.6%. And it was the only mode of transportation the Port Authority handles, ports, airports, bridges, tunnels, is the only one that increased year over year. So, and I would just say that you also have to get creative. I mean, like, it's not unidimensional. I mean, there are different partners you can make. We think about who would benefit from this. I mean, in terms of path, there's Newark, there's Prudential Center, there's Sports Illustrated Stadium with the Red Bulls. I really wish our campaign was about a year older because we would have been way better positioned for path to get more stuff for World Cup. But just look for creative ways to demonstrate that it's needed. And also, I'm just going to say, this is the one where you kind of have to hit with your advocate stick. You have to say like, stop blowing hot air. If you run it, they will ride. And this is the one spot where I would say be a little bit harsher.
Are there any other improvements to the path on the horizon or that you would
Yeah.
like to see?
Yes, we would love to see. Yeah, all of them. I know that there's a lot of things going on in the background that often don't get the public focus or shine, and we haven't pressed because they've basically said we're working on it and it's complex. And this is where you don't say we'll do it faster. You just say, okay, thank you. Appreciate your handling it. But I know that they're working on adjusting train times. So like if a train is moving, forget if it's slower or faster, but basically the app will adjust. Oh yeah, if a train speeds up, it will reflect on the app, which currently doesn't happen. It only happens if it slows down. They're installing new fare gates. That's great. I hope they work. New Jersey and New Yorkers are pretty apt at getting through fare gates. So I don't know how well that's going to turn out, but we'll see. And then there's a Journal Square project in the capital plan. We'd love to see them maximize that. Don't shortchange an important project. If Journal Square is growing, then you need to build for that projected growth and then some. and as well as the uptown tunnels. None of this is hidden. It's all in the capital plan. The uptown tunnels are going to be redone, and that's a once in a century, truly once in a century opportunity to add things like ADA accessibility, add system resiliency. So when there is maintenance that needs to be done, there is some sort of error, we're not back to 40-minute headways on path.
Let's turn to the Better Light Rail campaign. First of all, thank you for this. How did this initiative begin and what are its primary goals?
Yeah, I can take this one. So it really began with our campaign lead, Jesse. He was really involved in the PATH campaign as well, and kind of looked and said, hey, this worked for PATH. Can we do the same thing with the Hudson Bergen Light Rail? And from there, we started kind of building a coalition of folks that wanted to be involved in getting a campaign together. We developed our asks of New Jersey Transit, which is more off-peak service. That's really kind of the big one. And then we also know that we're asking for extension to Bergen County. It's been on the table for over 20 years at this point, still has not been built. And then if we are looking at expansions, one of the big ones here is expanding to Bayfront in Jersey City, and then being able to build more infill stations. So proposing one at 18th Street in Jersey City, 15th Street in Hoboken, just to overall make it a better network and make it better, more connected as the city has grown in these particular areas. So again, it's just kind of looking and saying like, hey, this worked here. Let's see if we can make it work for light rail in the community.
And I will add, it doesn't make our like campaign asks, but as Dana and I and our elected officials and other people go out and canvass, we're sourcing information. Like we found out the trains are often mislabeled. They say Bayonne Flyer when they aren't, or they don't when they are. I saw a train going to 8th Street the other day that said Hoboken Terminal on the side of it, going away from Hoboken. We learned like these are all, I could go on, but there are many little fixes that we got a staircase fixed the other day. Dana and I, with Council President Ridley, we went, well, that's not good. Half a staircase is closed at Danforth Avenue. Email, pictures, phone call to the board meeting, an in-person meeting with the customer advocate, Frank Bowman, who's a great guy. I highly recommend you talk to Frank next time he's out. And 2 weeks later, it was fixed. So those are the little wins that we're fighting for in between the big ones.
One of the proposed extensions would connect Jersey City with Newark's Ironbound, and I actually have an image I want to share of that. 1 minute. I've spoken with planners who believe this is the logical next step. How do you envision that extension working, and what are the biggest challenges to making it a reality?
Great questions. As advocates, I think the first step is really getting to Bayfront. So that is a project that's being built in Jersey City, on the shores of the Hackensack River, and it's redeveloping an old, I want to say Honeywell facility, and it's going to build 8,000 units of housing, 2,000 which are going to be affordable. Builds huge amount of commercial retail space. Thanks for linking to the project because there's so much that's going on. It's like gonna have sustainable transportation, a new firehouse for Jersey City, a new elementary school. So it's a really big project that would add, really add a lot of value to the community. And part of making that sustainable is being able to have a connection to the light rail that currently ends at West Side Avenue. So once we get, maybe that Bayfront station built, that gives a really compelling reason to start looking at, okay, how can we connect this network further and be able to get out to, reactivating maybe some of these trains lines that do exist. We're all, like I said, we're advocates, so we're more ideas people and trying to push for these things, but it would be really nice to make sure to connect these communities that were connected at one point and have kind of lost that connection over time.
Bayfront. If you want a connection between Essex and Hudson, the best thing that anyone here and anyone anywhere can do is push for the Bayfront extension, which is one of those things that everybody at the table and multiple tables agree is a good, necessary, even crucial thing. And it's about finding the money. And the public, all New Jerseyans, can help make that a reality and get light rail to Newark by saying we need Bayfront. It's trains are a linear thing, pun intended. So our goals need to be linear, one thing after the other.
So just looking at your campaign map, we see the stop at the Bayfront, and then the next step would be Kearney Point, and then it moves towards Ferry Street. And I believe that CNJ corridor isn't developed, but what happens at the point where it meets what you're calling the Ferry Street subway station?
I can take that. We tell the engineers to figure it out. And I am being a little bit cheeky, but it's like we are the idea people, and it's also not very productive use of our time because we are not engineers. And even if we were and put together a wonderful document that was totally usable, they would still then go to their consultants or their internal engineers and say, well, we need to review all of this. And then I'm sure they would say, well, I'm not going to use someone else's plan. Like we need to make our own plan. We push the communities to voice the need, the benefit, the value. We push the business community to advocate. And then once there's enough public pressure, they say, okay, we will look into how it connects. So I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna lie to you on that one. I don't know exactly how it would connect.
What I love about this is that you can see this like circular track of public transportation that it would form. And it would make it so much easier for Jersey City residents to enjoy the Ironbound and all it offers. Um, do misconceptions such as concerns about eminent domain ever make it more difficult to build public support for projects like this?
Jack, you want to go first or okay. Um, I think there's always the potential for pushback when projects run through existing neighborhoods. Jersey City is very dense. There's a lot of already a lot of built up areas. So, I think the need really does need to outweigh the concern. And furthermore, with Bayfront in particular, there's currently nothing there. It's a site that's sitting essentially vacant. So we want to building that up is effectively asking if anyone wants to run irrigation in the desert. Like let's go. If anyone objects to that. We'll certainly address it when it comes to it. I think as far as with the Better Light Rail campaign and with how we've gone out to go canvassing, there has been a lot of really great support for it's basically better service as well as all the extensions because people want to be able to get to all of these great things that they're going to be building in Bayfront and then also potentially be able to get out further west. One of the funny parts is whenever someone will come up to us and be like, hey, will you sign a petition? It's always a little bit nerve wracking when you're like, I don't know how they're going to feel about it. And they're just like, oh my gosh, say less. Like I'm signing right now. This needs to improve. We absolutely need more of this. So that's always really encouraging when you're able to get support that way.
Yeah, we get a lot of we're walking up and as our mouths are open, yes, yes, absolutely. When that's not very common with a petition, you need to really twist their arm. And as Mayor Solomon said about a transit canvas that he did with us back when he was Councilman Solomon, he said it was the easiest canvas I've ever done, which and he won. So I think that points out that this is something that the public really wants. To the eminent domain point, however, I would say, as Dana said, Bayfront, there's really no issue. The northern extension, the northern branch, there is. I mean, people, that is a developed region, and there are many municipalities, so that would take some cajoling. But we're confident that with wins in terms of service, in terms of system maintenance, and progress towards Bayfront, we can show tepid electeds, understandably so, that this is a campaign worth supporting because it is organized, it is getting wins, it is making progress, and maybe this could be the white whale of North Jersey transportation. We could get the Hudson Bergen light rail into Bergen finally.
Another mission of yours that we strongly support is connecting the Newark light rail to Watsessing Station. And I have an image of that as well. Although it's a relatively short distance, many people see it as a transformative project. Why do you think that extension is so significant and how can it be done?
You totally you, Dana. You're first last mile lady.
Okay, perfect. I'm like a first last mile. This is what I like talk about constantly. It's just how do I get from once I get to the station, how do I get to my next destination? So I live in Jersey City. I don't currently own a car. And I have a lot of friends though that do, and they live in the suburbs and I want to go visit them. And generally I can get to the station on public transportation fairly easily. But then it's how do I get to their house or where we're meeting up once I'm at that station? And really there's no connection a lot of the time. And I did a little Google Maps looking for this walk, and a lot of times it's really long. It can be very strenuous. Where my neighborhood is up a cliff. Not everyone's gonna just sign up to go make that walk. So especially when you think about families, seniors, it's just a lot to take on. So those folks opt for car travel for the entire trip rather than using any portion of public transportation. So I think that's why these projects are so important to make connections and actually have a network that you can use to get from point A to point B without having to do a 30-minute hike at the beginning or at the end.
And I'll just give one example: the Dinky shuttle in Princeton. Like it's not a long ride at all. It probably would be about a 30-minute walk if I think about it. And we understand that for a place that is generating so much education, commerce, money, all of a sudden it becomes worth it. But these little but not insignificant uh, connector pieces or shuttles or whatever form first last mile takes, they're really important and they can make neighborhoods. It's not insignificant. I just want to emphasize that.
You're also advocating for extending light rail further into Hudson County. Let me share my image too.
Bergen County? Yeah.
Yes, excuse me. Can you describe your vision for that expansion, why it's important, and what obstacles stand in the way?
Oh gosh, this is the hard one. This is the hard one, which is why we have not unranked it, but deranked it as something that we're reaching out for this second. I feel like they would say it's fair. Like our first two asks are to prove that we can get the third ask. Um, our plan, how do I say it without saying too much? New Jersey politics are complicated. Everyone in this room knows that. And I mean, boroughitis, I'm not sure if you're all familiar with the term, but if you've ever looked at the animation of New Jersey townships in the late 1800s, all becoming little boroughs in North Jersey and in my area of Monmouth County, where everyone wanted to be a mayor, everyone wanted a school board, everyone wanted to be the chief of police, and we've never gotten away from that. And it causes problems now. And it's going to take a certain order of operations of proving our campaign in Hudson, getting wins on the ground for riders, documenting it, working with New Jersey Transit and electeds to show that this is something that benefits them. With New Jersey Transit, we're trying to get you more money. With electeds, we're trying to deliver you happier voters. And when we have all our ducks in a row, we can move into Bergen and connect with the people who can tell others you need to stand down from your objections to this project. Unlike Hudson County, that has some Hudson and Essex have pretty powerful political leadership. Bergen County is a little bit more dispersed, with the municipalities and mayors possessing more say in decisions than in Hudson. I mean, the reality is if Craig Guy and Brian Stack want something done and they both advocate for it, people usually fall into line and do it. So we need to utilize our relationships and take it from there. I hope that wasn't too convoluted, but the whole process is convoluted.
I wanted to point out to our viewers that the map on the right is your campaign image, and the one on the left is New Jersey Transit's image. So this looks like an area where you're both aligned. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I don't think the line has ever been in question.
Yeah, I
And
think one of one of the challenges, as Jack said, is getting that support from electeds, because all of this requires funding, and that's one of the main things that elected officials do decide, is just who gets that that pot of money. And it's not just Bergen County that can say, like, yes, we absolutely want to do this. Then they need to go get buy-in from other areas of the state. Also, federal money is required, so then we need to get buy-in from other folks in Congress. So it becomes this kind of like, it's where everyone's on the same page, and that the light rail is a huge success. Want to bring it even further and be able to expand it out and add that Bergen to the Hudson Bergen part of light rail. But yeah, it is a challenge. You have to get all of these folks all rowing in the same direction in order to make these types of really big projects happen.
If you'll allow me to share my screen, I just want to
Yeah.
show how simple, not simple, but how close this is. If you're not familiar with the Open Railway map, which I'm sure many of you are, you should be, because it's a transit nerd's dream. So you can see all the lines, and as you zoom in, we see this green line. There's Bergen Line Avenue, there's Tonelli. This is the distance we're talking about between active lines and lines used for freight. I mean, we're not talking about creating a whole new world. We're talking about utilizing some existing lines. I'm sure some modifications would have to be made, but the right of way is existing. It's there. So I sometimes it's like a double-edged sword. It's like, oh, it's so easy. It's so easy. We don't have to construct a whole bunch of new stuff. That's great. But then the other side is, oh man, this is kind of defeating, because it's so easy we haven't done it. And I feel that it's just the lack of organization up to this point until us.
Much of the expansion you envision utilizes old rail corridors. Are there any places where you believe entirely new rail corridors could be created?
Right now, no. I mean, I think that reactivating old corridors is enough. And as Dana pointed out, well, alluded to, and I'll say it directly, the federal situation is not great. We have a Department of Transportation that is pretty clear for its distaste with rail transportation, and it's like, anything but cars. So right now, I think it's as an advocate, it's important to prioritize your time, energy, and emotional health by not going after pie in the sky. And right now, I think building new lines is sadly pie in the sky. But I will say that reactivating old corridors can be a step towards new corridors when people see the benefits they deliver. So I'm gonna put a happy spin on it like that.
What's next for the Better Light Rail campaign? After the letter writing campaign concludes, what are the next steps and how can the public continue to help you?
Yeah, so right now we are all in on canvassing. That's our primary focus, is to um, really engage the community, make sure that they're out there sending letters to elected officials saying, yes, we want better service. We are the demand that you've been looking for, and get them all on board. After, we've done a lot in Hoboken, we've been canvassing in Jersey City and in Union City a little bit, but we want to expand that within Hudson County. So being able to go to Bayonne is probably our next really big area of opportunity, since light rail is a big part of transportation there, and we want to be able to build enough support so that we can get these service increases like we have with PATH, and then be able to you know get state support as needed for all these extensions that we want to do. And so that's kind of the next step, is getting letters of support from elected officials in Hudson County, as well as in communities around the area, because that's really going to help, again, push that state level support to be able to get the funding that we would need for extended service, expansions, all of that kinds of stuff that we're wanting to get.
I feel a little bit like I'm copying off of someone else's test, but we're repeating the path formula. It's canvas, it's get the signatures. So as Dana said, signatures get you elected letters of support. Once you have enough letters of support, you could do a press event. And the gentleman John I referenced earlier, he sometimes would break it down for me in the simplest terms. I'm like, well, how do I go about this? He goes, you just write letters. And if they don't respond, he goes, you write letters to someone else. And if they don't respond, you write letters to all those same people again with more evidence. And then once you have enough people paying attention, you ask them to come to a place and then call the media and say, hey, there's a bunch of people coming to a place. You should come tell a story about this. And it really is that simple. It's just that most people don't do it because it's time consuming. And, no one likes not getting their phone call answered or not having a letter responded to, but uh, or walking up to someone as they're looking like this on the platform, which I'm now totally comfortable with. Like, hey, you willing to sign our petition for better light rail service? Once you're okay with that stuff, you just keep doing more of it, and it keeps moving ahead.
Looking ahead, what role do you hope Governor Sherrill's administration will play in advancing transit projects like these?
Feel like a broken record when I say all these things require funding. And we would hope that Governor Sherrill, as the transportation advocate she says she is, would be on support and helpful in getting us that funding. We will need state legislatures to vote, our legislators to vote on increasing service or increasing funding for New Jersey Transit so that they can add more trains and add more operators. We would want to make sure that her administration is on board. So then when someone maybe comes to her and says like, hey, are you a fan of this? Do you want this to see move forward? She goes, yes, I absolutely do. And, that really helps build a lot of momentum to be able to get the votes and the funding that we would need.
And I'm I'm hopeful. I'm cautiously optimistic because they're making moves with New Jersey Transit rail, heavy rail, ordering the hundreds of new cars from Alstom that are being manufactured in upstate New York right now. I Everything Dana said, and just my hopefulness that she will, and I'm pushing to affordability because that was her buzzword for the campaign. So, and it is a reality. I mean, average car ownership in New Jersey, and I think nationwide, is $10,000. And I can tell you, as a former car owner in Jersey City, it's more than that because you get tickets, you will get towed, you have to pay for parking. This is a very direct way to give affordability to residents. Again, if you build it, if you run it, they will ride.
I have one more question for you, but I wanted to ask the audience to type any questions that you have in the chat. And the last question is, the governor has made several key transportation appointments. Are you optimistic about the future?
Yes. I was very optimistic when I saw Mr. Calori appointed at both Turnpike and New Jersey Transit, because that to me is a harbinger of like, uh, and the comments by Department of Transportation Commissioner Jane that the rider does not care about which systems they are using. They just think about where they are and where they're trying to go. So we need to stop putting them through. I'm paraphrasing. We need to stop putting them through the bureaucratic rigmarole of now you're on local roads, now you're on transit, now you're on the turnpike, now you're on city or county light rail. They don't care. So when I heard them say that, I feel like, okay, this is going in the right direction. Be patient, be encouraging. Don't yell at them for it not happening quick enough because I think they want it to happen too. They're saying that.
Yeah, I agree with Jack. I'm cautiously optimistic as well. I really, it's a whole network. It's not just about as Jack said, I'm on the turnpike now, and then I'm on a county road, and now all my behavior's changed and everything changed. Now it's just point A, point B, and it needs to be a really whole network approach to these decisions that are being made. I think something else that was a big win for us was the turnpike project and seeing that kind of reduced, since highway expansions typically do lead to more traffic in dense areas like ours. And a lot of the time when we would talk with turnpike officials during that campaign cycle, it was, well, we're the turnpike, we only spend money on turnpike projects, we support public transportation in these ways, but they're all different, da, 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 da. It's like, why aren't they just working together? Because at the end of the day, it's common in both of their names, New Jersey, and that needs to be kind of the approach that, at least in my opinion, I think they should take. So we're really, like I said, cautiously optimistic that we're going to see at least a little bit less siloing, I think, between New Jersey Transit and New Jersey Turnpike.
Well, thank you both. I don't see any questions in the chat. Is there anything else you wanted to add to the conversation, Jack and Dana?
Just appreciation for being interested enough to ask us. I mean, I will say, yes, how do people help? Share our petition, really. I often, even as an advocate, the act of sharing a petition on social media or to your friends, it's uncomfortable. Hey, I have something that I care about that you may or may not care about, but please take 3 minutes to do this. It's a weird thing to do, but I ask that you do it because it really helps us. And that's the main thing. And you know, I also say when you see us post things about Better Light Rail, even if you don't think it was a great post, even if you don't love it, like it and press that reshare button because it stimulates the algorithm to think that everyone loves this and it actually does move the needle. Like the electeds do look at how popular your Instagram is and to decide if they want to write you a letter or do something. So just that's my ask of all of you. Like, share, subscribe, like every social media person in the world right now.
Hey, before people go, um, I'm Charles, and I'm using my wife's account. So if you're wondering what the disconnect is, there you go. I wanted to ask a little bit about the path. Now, I know there's ideas on extending it to the Newark Light, to the Newark airport, and getting rid of the monorail, which good. And then the original plans for the path was it was going to be a ladder all the way up the Hudson. And so they got two tunnels in, and there was supposed to be another tunnel around Fort Lee, which would have connected in with the light rail that ran all the way over to Patterson, and then another branch went up to Suffer. And you can tell I kind of like old trolleys and things like that. So wanted to ask about that. Also, to our host, I wanted to ask about how we can support extending the light rail to Watsessing Station and making a good, useful Watsessing Station, or even I know you want a pathway, but I want the light rail all the way out to West Orange. That's been my goal for over a decade since I moved to that area. And I'll stop at this point.
I can answer on the path to Newark Airport. So that sadly, the air train is being replaced. Great, it's being replaced with another air train. Bummer. And there's no undoing that. It's already there are steel beams in the ground. It's not going to happen. That said, we are still pushing to get Newark or get past to Newark, and it has become a running joke when I attend the board meetings that as I'm getting up to it, the chairman starts smiling, like, "Go ahead, ask for the thing I'm not going to give you." And as I said it to him last week, I said, there has to be someone who still asks because this project got wiped off the table when COVID hit. There were no advocates there to say, this is important to people. So maybe it's a fool's errand, but I will continue being that fool who asks for the thing they're not going to give us. And I have heard whisperings that there are electeds in New Jersey that are willing to push this. So we're in I'll keep asking, and I'm going to put together the best I can with the help of Hudco Street's data people. And Dana, I have a job for you to try to demonstrate the economic viability of it. Looking at Toronto and Heathrow Airport in London as examples of a place where there was an airport separated from city, a tourist location that really made a big difference when they added that transit line. So that's kind of on hold, but not forgotten about.
And Charles, please reach out to the Orange Branch Historical Society. I'd love to connect and hear your ideas about extending the Newark Light Rail.
Okay.
There's
Well, I made a set of Google Maps that kind of showed where the end of public service New Jersey in the 1940s went. And when you include the lost heavy rail things, like for example, the Essex Fells line that ran, then connected to Morristown and Erie, and unfortunately they missed an opportunity not grabbing that when it was available in the 80s. But you had this great system. You had four lines coming out of the subway. That weren't just the original subway. You had Bloomfield Avenue that went all the way to the Caldwells. You had Norfolk, and along with Orange, kind of went into West Orange. And then you had another one. Oh God, it's basically at NJIT that kind of went all the way west to the West Summit station. The point was is that the cool thing about these systems was is that they were anchored at both ends with some heavy rails. So the idea was is you take the heavy rail to one of those areas or a bus, and then you would take the light rail to your or close enough to your final destination. And all these were dense areas, and it wouldn't take much to put in the orange, and the Norfolk one's kind of goofy. Bloomfield Orange and the NJIT one, I'll call that stuff back out, and then start wandering into the city itself. And I don't. So that's part of the reason why I'm so interested in the Watts-Sessing one. Long answer is because it would anchor it to one area, and yeah, I know NJ light rail is run by buses, and the heavy rail is a different group, and they're kind of at loggerheads. But you know, we could be doing this. And to answer the question of Matt, well, you tie the light rail in with the buses, and that's how people get up and down the hill. Unless you want to put in those things they have on Roosevelt Island, up the hill.
A gondola campaign?
Gondola campaign or the elevated. Remember, the elevated used to also they had an elevated that ran from Hoboken all the way into Jersey City, and yeah. So that's part of my interest is that we had these great systems, but usually it wasn't just that it was a light rail going out somewhere, it was attached to something. And reconnecting those attachments, I think, with especially your campaign of the United the Hudsonburg and Light Rail through Ironbound is a good idea. I really wish they would just do it through the Meadowlands with the full West Orange line, but I'll stop talking.
No, that's one of those things that if you get enough of us in a room, we just start being like, well, what if we did this and what if we did that? The other day I was like, we should absolutely have an urban gondola that goes from my house and or rather from Jersey City Heights down to Hoboken would be great. Let's go do it. And then, then we all kind of come back to earth and we're like, all right, now we got to start another campaign and get funding for it and all that. So that's where Jack was saying, like, find that project that's the one that you think is really realistic, put your energy there, make your campaign asks really concrete, and then start getting and building support from the community and local electeds. And that's really how we were found success with Path, and then we're hoping to find success with this light rail campaign as well.
Thanks, Charles,
I,
for your question and comments.
I will say I remember one meeting I had with Port Authority, and there they have the supporters and the skeptics. They're all nice, but someone in so many words was saying, why are you bringing me these impractical ideas? And I read between the lines. I said, Steve, I didn't bring my impractical ideas. There's a list of those at home. I only came with the ones that you can do, and I know you can do. So I back, Dana and I are just supporting each other's position. But yeah, if you get confident that something is possible, as we believe Bayfront is crucial and Bergen extension is very possible, that's where you hit and you focus your energy there. And there's been sometimes we're told with our campaigns, like, that thing is not going to happen. And it will not happen. And there are times where they say that's not going to happen, and it totally can happen. And part of the skill of advocacy is learning when they have drank their own Kool-Aid of just not believing in our infrastructure abilities anymore, because that's an epidemic in New Jersey and the United States. Just like, oh man, we can't do it, when they built like hundreds of miles of lines in the 1920s. So I'm not buying that we can't do it, but you have to discern. It's tough.
There's one question from Max. How do you convince officials to care? For example, the Port Authority has no financial incentive to improve path service. NJ Transit is struggling to run their system as is and might decide they don't have the bandwidth.
Pride.
Yeah,
In,
I think
in,
right. I think one thing that I have to remind myself also is like maybe a little bit of a cop out, but they're required to do this role. You know, as a part of how Port Authority was created, is that they have to run path, and that may change in the future. I think that will take a lot of steps in action, but one, they're required to do it, so they have to care, and then two, I think it becomes then about they have to answer to someone, right? They're at their job, they have to achieve certain outcomes, they have to achieve certain goals, and their, you know, ultimate boss, if you will, is Governor Sherrill and the legislatures, and they need to be able to say, hey, this is why I'm not supporting your constituency. They don't really want to get into those types of conversations. So I think that's where canvassing made such a big difference, because we had so much kind of this groundswell of support, and it didn't just become a local issue, became a this is an issue for the entire region. This is an issue that everyone needs to care about in New Jersey. And then also, as Jack said, right, you know, use the transportation options, even if you're going to run into issues, because you can always go to them and say like, hey, I had this issue, it happened to me, it is real, and it really grounds the conversation as opposed to being kind of more theoretical.
and I would also say that you frame it like there's data and there's anecdotes, and know which square you need to be stepping on. I find uh, as a writer and a creative, I mean, I lean towards anecdotal evidence. Um, I also find it's more persuasive. Ironically enough, I've looked at a scientific study that showed that scientific studies don't convince anyone, and they usually push people further into their beliefs. So if I show you all this data and say, "Look, I'm right," they say, "No, you're not, and your methodology is flawed." But if I say my mother was an RN for 41 years and she worked in Long Branch and she lived in Monmouth Beach, which is about 7 minutes down the road, she had the benefit of having a car and roads to take her there. The nurses of Hudson and Bergen County don't have that benefit. Well, let me keep it with the nurses of Hudson County don't have that benefit. Many of them work in New York City, and we're giving them a 2 hour commute, but we're giving the financier, the Wall Street financier, a 12-minute commute. And I know that's not your intention, but that is the objective reality. And while I know that you cannot move mountains, I believe that it's our duty to our fellow citizens, particularly those who are taking care of us, sometimes when it's a life or death situation, that we get them to that job as quickly as we possibly can. I'd have a way hard time. I can't even imagine the argument that I would get there because they would look like a sociopath. So I kind of try to box them into corners with emotional stuff that they go, okay, you have a point, personally.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. Like telling actual stories from, you know, in Jersey City, for example, with Safe Streets, we advocate for pedestrian safety. And I see some wild stuff walking around Jersey City, and those stories are often the ones that really resonate. And I'm a data analytics person, so it always hurts me a little bit when it's like the data doesn't matter as much. But I think if you pair them together, it generally goes really well. If you say like, hey, this is really important for me, and this is how it impacts me personally, and oh yeah, it's also going to impact and benefit everyone else.
I, I was worried I might hurt your feelings a little bit, but I have a little addendum to that. The, the anecdotes are public, the data is private. Recently, we spoke with a New York City organization that I won't name, but I said, hey, support our Path to Newark initiative. I could have told them all the heartwarming stories or, tear jerkers, and they would not have cared. They went, what's the data? How much does it cost? What's the use case? And it was very clear that I did not come with the proper data, so they didn't care. And I immediately followed up. They answered no within a day, which is how you know it's really a no. We're not giving you a letter. And I said, how about I try in early 2027 with a case study where it worked? And they said, that is the approach. Thank you so much. So private conversations, more data, public conversations, more anecdotes. And they do work well together, and it shows that you have your stuff together.
There's one last comment from Vito, an idea for the Watsessing extension. An idea for funding the Watsessing Avenue extension of Newark Light Rail may be to turn the station into a transit center. There would be bus, light rail, and heavy rail. Any thoughts?
I will say I'm not an expert in financing large projects, but I know that at the kind of state level, there's a lot of discussion about how to finance these types of projects outside of kind of what you traditionally think of. So things like tax increment financing, or any, all these kind of different options are on the table to say, like, hey, you're a developer, you're maybe going to benefit, or you're going to build housing or retail near this new transit center that's coming in. We're going to, maybe take a portion, or somehow be able to help fund up front some of those projects. Our Assemblywoman Katie Brennan is an expert on all of these things, so I always go to her Instagram to learn about kind of what's the latest that she's trying to push for in Trenton. And it's something that we're also looking at with I believe it's the 15th Street station in Hoboken. There's a lot of development potentially that could come as that. And it would also include an elevator potentially up to Union City, which would be really a game changer for that area. So we're trying to think about, okay, in order to fund this type of project, can we position it by getting help from, the developers that stand to benefit? So it's all figuring it out and figuring out what the best system is. But definitely check out, if you don't follow her already, or check out her website as well, her Assembly Person website, because she's always posting interesting things about what she's working on in that space.
Echoing Dana, get the commercial support for whom it would make sense. In the case of 15th Street, that was kind of done for us years ago, but we are now, so it makes it way easier for us to say, hey, a station here would make your next round of fundraising so much easier, and you're going to sell these units so much quicker, and you're going to be able to expand your market, because right now your market is whatever's 1 mile radius, if that. Your market becomes 5 miles if someone can get on a light rail or any sort of transportation and get there. And Charles, as you mentioned, rail is better. I mean, more people are inclined to get on a form of rail than they are a bus, because there's uncertainty with a bus. A rail, there's only a number of ways they can go, and usually, because it's New Jersey, there's left and right. So you really are confident that you're going to get where you're trying to get to.
Well, thank you, Dana and Jack. I really appreciate you coming on. You guys have been so supportive of us, and we hope to return that favor. Please, to find out more information about Better Light Rail, please visit the website on the prompt. We recorded this meeting as well, so we'll send it out to our newsletter subscribers. So please subscribe to our newsletter at theorangebranch.com. And we hope to hear more about this as this progresses, and let us know how we can help you.
I just sent the link also in the chat. Sign our petition if you haven't already. I fully, you're going to get an email from me if I don't see at least a handful of signatures by the end of today. And I'll know because we get emails. We really appreciate you hosting us. And likewise, if there is something that you want to do with Watsesson Station, and have ideas or need guidance, to whatever extent we can offer that, we're happy to help. And I thank you. And I'll leave Dana for the final word.
Yeah, same thing. Thank you so much for having us. We love to talk transit any chance I think we mostly get. And definitely sign the petition. It is open to anyone who is a light rail user or wants to just see more light rail service. So check it, and also check out our website. If you have any questions after this, or if there's any way that we can help, please reach out. We are more than happy to talk through it.
Thank you, Dana and Jack. Take care,
Thanks, guys.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.